tayo ng Math-aral. Sa Math, walang maiiwan. Math-sayang Math-aral, tayo ng Math-tuto upang di kayo masenso. Maging matyaga, maging matalino, halina Math-aral na tayo. Maging matyaga, maging matalino, halina Math-aral na tayo. Halina Math-aral na tayo. Halina Math-aral na tayo. Halina, 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 aral na tayo.
Good day everyone! My name is Teacher ARCY. Narito tayo muli sa bagong episode ng Statistics and Probability. Bago tayo magsimula, siguraduhin meron na kayong module, ballpen, at papel. Huwag rin kakalimutan maghugas ng kamay at maglinis ng inyong learning area. Are you ready? If you are, then let's begin. Our lesson for today is testing hypothesis about population mean when variance is known. But before that, let's define first what is hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing, it is a procedure used in quantitative research by a statistician to determine whether or not to accept the assumption about population. So, ibig sabihin, hypothesis testing, ginagamit ito ng statistician or ng researcher. They are making assumptions or they're making guess. And then yung guess na yun, gusto nila patunayan kung tatanggapin ba nila yun as true or tatanggapin nila yung guess na yun as false. So, therefore, they will use hypothesis testing to test whether their assumption is true or false, or to accept or to reject. That is hypothesis testing. There are two types of hypothesis testing. So the first one is the null hypothesis. So when you say null hypothesis, it is a statement stating that there is no changes, nothing happened, no significant difference between population parameter and the value that is being claimed. So, when you say null hypothesis, sinasabi dito na ang null hypothesis, there are two parameters in the problem. Sinasabi niya na there is no changes between those parameters. There are no significant difference between those two parameters. Okay, so the symbol for null hypothesis is H sub O. And then, we have the second one, which is alternative hypothesis. So you say alternative hypothesis, it is a statement stating that there is a changes, something happened, a significant difference between the population parameter and the value that is being claimed. So ibig sabihin, alternative hypothesis, it contradicts the null hypothesis. Ibig sabihin, pag sinabi na null hypothesis na there is no significant difference, sasabihin naman ng alternative hypothesis that there is a significant difference. So, the symbol for alternative hypothesis is H sub A. Z-test is used for the mean of the population when your n or number of data is 30 or equal to 30, or when a population is normally distributed and variance is known. So in this lesson, we will be using z-test because the number of data that we will be using here is 30 and above. So we can also use t-test in different cases, but for now, we will be using z-test. So the formula for z-test for a mean is this one. So we have z equals x bar minus mu all over sigma over square root of n, wherein your x bar is the sample mean, mu is the population mean, sigma is the standard deviation, and n is the number of data. In solving hypothesis testing, we use these 5-step procedures. So the first one is state the hypothesis and identify the claim. So in step 1, we will be using the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. And then number 2, find the critical value from the appropriate table. In this case, again, we will be using the Z table to find the critical value. So the next one is step 3. So step 3 is compute the test statistics. So we will be using the formula from the previous slide, the formula for z-test for the mean. And then number 4, make decision to reject or not to reject the null hypothesis. So based on the computed data, we'll make the decision. And then number 5, summarize the result. So from the decision we made, we will summarize the result. Let's proceed to example number 1. A researcher reports that the average salary of assistant professor is more than 42,000. A sample of 20 assistant professors has a mean salary of 43,200. At 5% significant level, test the claim that the assistant professors earn more than 42,000 a year. The standard deviation of the population is 4,500. So using the 5-step procedure in solving hypothesis testing, so we'll have step number 1. Step number 1 here is state the hypothesis and identify the claim. So we have null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So meron tayo ngayon ditong HO, which is the null hypothesis. So the claim here is the salary of assistant professor, according to the problem, ang salary daw ng assistant professor is more than 42,000. So that is the claim. And then, syempre, si alternative hypothesis, kukontrahin niya ngayon si null hypothesis. So sasabihin niya ngayon na the salary of assistant professor is less than or equal to 42,000. So they contradict each other. So again, the null hypothesis is mu more than, or the population mean is more than 42,000. That is the claim. And the alternative hypothesis is the population mean is less than or equal to 42,000. And then let's proceed to step number 2. So step number 2, find the critical value. So since the problem uses the alpha 0.05 and the problem is a one-tailed test, so we'll have now 0.500 minus the alpha, which is 0.0500. So the answer here is 0.4500. And then locating this 0.4500 in the Z table, we'll have Z equals 1.65 as critical value. I will show you now how we came up with the critical value, which is 1.65. So we have here 0.45. So using the Z table for one-tailed, so we will locate now 0.4500. And more or less, 0.4500 is here, in a red box. So looking at the left side, so that is 1.6. Pagkatapatin lang natin, ang katapat naman sa upper side is 0.05. And then, therefore, ganyan po natin kinuha yung 1.65. So, kaya po tayo, the critical value natin ay 1.65 using the table for one-tailed test. So, after this one, we will now proceed with step number 3. So compute the test value. So using the formula for the test value, we have z equals to x bar minus mu all over sigma over square root of n. So in the problem, the x bar there, or the sample mean, is 43,200 minus the population mean, which is 42,000, all over the sigma, or the standard deviation, is 4,500, then over square root of n, which is square root of 20. Therefore, computing for the z, we'll have now z equals to 1.19. So, mangyayari ito ngayon, pag-compare natin yung sagot natin sa step 3, which is z equals to 1.19, and then also dun sa step 2, yung critical value natin. So, pag-compare natin yung dalawa. So, we'll proceed now with step number 4, which is make the decision. So, yun nga, again, i-compare natin ngayon yung sagot natin sa step 2 and step 3. So, since the test statistics sa step 3 is 1.19 is less than the critical value sa step 2, which is 1.65, therefore, the decision is not to reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, accept the null hypothesis. So, ganito yung mangyari kapag mas mababa yung sagot mo sa step 3 dun sa sagot mo sa step 2, you will not reject the null hypothesis. You will accept the null hypothesis. So, therefore, proceed tayo sa step number 5. So, step number 5, summarize the result. So, therefore, or there is enough evidence to support the claim that the assistant professor earned more than 42,000. So, tama yung null hypothesis natin. Ibig sabihin, yung professor or assistant professor, nag-earn talaga sila ng more than 42,000. So, therefore, again, accept the null hypothesis or not to reject the null hypothesis. Let's proceed to example number 2. So, I will read the example number 2. Medical Rehabilitation Foundation reports that the average cost of rehabilitation for stroke victims is 1,184,256. To see if the average cost of rehabilitation is different at a particular hospital, a researcher selected a random sample of 30 stroke victims at the hospital and found that the average cost of their rehabilitation is 1,210,848. The standard deviation of the population is 156,048. At alpha equals 0.01, can it be concluded that the average cost of the stroke rehabilitation at a particular hospital is different from 1,184,256. So, again, we will be using the 5-step procedure in finding the hypothesis testing. Let's proceed to step number 1. So, step number 1 is to state the hypothesis and identify the claim. So, the null hypothesis here is the average cost of the hospital is equal to 1,184,256. So, that is the claim. So, now, kukontray natin yung claim. Therefore, hindi daw or not equal yung 1,184,256. So, ayun yung magiging alternative hypothesis natin. So, mu is equal to 1,184,256. That is the claim. And the alternative hypothesis is mu is not equal to 1,184,256. So, let's see kung anong magiging sagot natin. So, let's proceed to step number 2. Find the critical value. So, since the problem is a two-tailed test, we'll have now alpha which is 0.01, will be divided into 2. So we'll have now 0.005. So we have now 0.500 minus the alpha divided by 2, that is 0.0050. Therefore, the answer here is 0.4950 or 0.4950. So locating using the Z table for two-tailed, the answer here will be plus and minus 2.58. So 2.58 in the left side and 2.58 in the right side. So let's have step number 3. Compute the test value. So using the formula, so I'll have now x bar minus mu all over sigma over square root of n. So I'll have now x bar is 1,210,848 minus the mu, which is 1,184,256 over the sigma or the standard deviation, which is 156,048 over square root of n, and n is 30. So computing for the z, we'll have now 0.93. So again, we will compare the critical value in step number 2 and also your answer in step number 3. So napapansin nyo, mas mababa na naman yung sagot natin sa step number 3. Therefore, we will make decision now from the step 4. So again, since the test statistics is 0.93, mas mababa yung 0.93 sa computed natin, which is the critical value in step number 2, which is 2.58. Therefore, the decision is the decision again is not to reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, accept the null hypothesis. So step number 5. So there is enough evidence to support the claim that the average cost of stroke rehabilitation at a particular hospital is different from 1,184,256. Therefore, accept natin yung null hypothesis natin. So therefore, yung average cost talaga ng hospital is equal to 1,184,256.
That's it for today. If you have any questions, huwag mahihiyang magtanong. See you again sa next episode ng Statistics and Probability. Muli, ako si Teacher ARCY. Bye!